Hey, it's Yay for Yarn, and today I'm going to show you how to crochet the Candy Shop Shawl. So this is a pretty simple triangle shawl with a little bit of very simple to work lace in it. And this pattern is designed for any gauge, any yarn. So even though I'm using a worsted weight yarn for mine, you can use any yarn weight you want. So the first thing you're going to need for this project is the free written pattern, which you can find in the description box below. There's a link to the pattern on my blog. And there's also a large print, ad-free, printable PDF version of the pattern in my Ravelry store available for purchase. So to make this shawl, you're going to need obviously some yarn. Normally, when I give yarn requirements, I give them according to yardage, as far as the length of yarn in yards per skein or per size that you're going to make in the pattern. But in this case, because it is designed for any gauge and any yarn, I'm going to give you a weight. And that is so that you can substitute whatever yarn you want, and you'll still have an idea of approximately how much yarn you're going to need to make a decent sized shawl. So this is a Yarn Bee Sugarwheel. This is one of those gradient cake type of yarns. The colorway I have is called Bubblegum Blitz, and this skein weighs 7 ounces, which is about 200 grams. It's basically exactly 200 grams, and it has 355 yards. So in this case, unless you're using worsted weight yarn, go by the weight given in the pattern. So whatever yarn weight category that you choose, just make sure you have about 7 ounces or 200 grams of yarn. So this one is worsted weight, but like I said, you can choose any weight you want. And this is kind of the color pattern that I'm going to get out of this. There's like a light turquoise, royal blue, a pink, and then a lighter bubblegum pink, and then that same turquoisey blue at the end, because I like to start from the center pole end of the skein. So you'll also need a size K or 6.5 millimeter crochet hook. And again, if you're using a different yarn weight, then yes, you can use a different size crochet hook. You're not going to use this size with a fingering weight yarn. So choose a crochet hook that is appropriate for the size yarn that you're using. A size or two larger than what your yarn label recommends is okay. This label recommends an I, and I'm using a K, and that is to help make it a little bit lacier, drapier, and lighter weight. Now, if you're using a really thin yarn, then you don't have to worry about making it lacier and drapier because it will already be that way because it's thinner. But because I'm using a worsted weight, I don't want it to get too heavy because this is a lightweight type of garment. So you'll also need some scissors. And obviously you'll need like a ruler or measuring tape to check your gauge if you want to match my gauge, but this pattern is written for any gauge, so you can just not even worry about gauge, and as long as you have a good amount of yarn, the full 7 ounces and 200 grams, then you should be able to not just worry about the gauge and just make it, and whatever gauge it comes out is fine as long as it is appropriate for the yarn that you're using. So you don't necessarily have to have the measuring tool to check your gauge if you're using a different yarn weight than I am. And you'll also need a yarn needle or a blunt tapestry needle, and that is basically for weaving in your ends. And we're also going to make some tassels to go on this shawl. If you want to add the tassels, then you'll need the yarn needle for that too. So we're going to begin in kind of the center back area of the shawl at the top edge. It's a triangle shawl. So we're going to kind of make it shaped like a triangle as we make it grow larger. So we're going to start in that center back area, and we're going to start by chaining 4. And then we're going to skip the first 3 chains that are closest to the hook and slip stitch in the 4th chain from the hook to make a little ring. And I like to pull the yarn tail tight just to secure that. So there's our little ring. You can see the center of it right there. And in this pattern, I like to use a chainless starting double crochet to start my rows. Now, I do have an entire video on starting a row with the chainless starting stitches including the chainless starting double crochet if you want to go and check that out if you haven't seen it yet. But what this does is it eliminates the turning chain. And I really prefer to avoid turning chains whenever I can, but that is just my preference. If you like to have a turning chain and you'd rather use a turning chain, then you can replace every instance where the chainless starting double crochet is mentioned in the pattern, then you can replace that with a chain 3, as long as you always make sure to count that whole chain 3 as a single stitch. So I'm going to begin my row by working a chainless starting double crochet into the center of the ring. And to do this, I'm going to stretch the loop on my hook until it's about the same height as a regular double crochet. And I'm going to place my finger on the back of that loop to hold it still, so that when I kind of go like that or like that, it's going to stay put where I'm holding it down with my finger. I'm going to bring the hook towards me and then back behind to make the equivalent of a yarn over with that stretched out loop. Then I'm going to insert my hook into the ring. I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. And then it looks like if I were to let go of the loop right now with my index finger, it would come untwisted, so don't let go of it till the stitch is finished. But if I'm still holding that still, it looks like a regular double crochet at this point, because we basically have the loop that was originally on the hook, the yarn over, and the one we just pulled up. So now I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So that is my chainless starting double crochet. And that creates a stitch that is basically a double crochet. It looks like a double crochet, but it is performing the function of the turning chain that would normally be used here. So that is my chainless starting double crochet. And now I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to work another regular double crochet in the ring. Then I'm going to chain 2 and work another double crochet in the ring. And then I'm going to chain 1 again and work another double crochet in the ring. So this is what it looks like so far. This center chain space right here where we chain 2, that is our corner at the bottom of our shawl. And then this up here is going to be the top edge as we continue to make this larger. So at this point, at the end of this row, you should have 8 stitches, counting every chain stitch as a stitch. But like I said, if you're using the chain 3 instead of the chainless starting double crochet, then you will count that chain 3 as 1 stitch. So I've got 1 chainless starting double crochet, a chain, a double crochet, another 2 chains, another double crochet, a chain, and another double crochet, and that's a total of 8 stitches. So now we're going to turn and work row 2. So I'm just going to turn the work over, and the pattern tells me to work a chainless starting double crochet and a regular double crochet into this same stitch where my loop is coming from. So that's what we're going to do. It's basically the equivalent of putting 2 double crochet into that stitch, only we're starting with the chainless starting double crochet because this is the beginning of the row. So again, I'm going to stretch the loop on my hook and hold on to it with my index finger. I'm going to bring the hook towards me and then back underneath to make the equivalent of a yarn over. I'm going to insert my hook into the top of the same stitch that my loop was coming from. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and yarn over, pull through 2 loops. There's the chainless starting double crochet, and then I need a regular double crochet also in that same stitch, like so. So now I'm going to work 2 double crochet in the next stitch, which is basically the chain space, that first chain 1 space like that. Then I'm going to skip 1 stitch, which is this one right here, and then work a little sequence all into this corner chain space. So I'm supposed to work 2 double crochet, a chain 2, and 2 more double crochet all into that corner chain space. And then I'm going to skip a stitch and then put 2 double crochet in the chain space right there, that chain 1 space, and another 2 double crochet in the last stitch of the row, which is basically the top of the chainless starting double crochet from the previous row. So this is what it looks like at this point. And at the end of row 2, you should have 14 stitches, counting every regular stitch and counting each chain as a stitch. So up here where we had the chain 2, I'm counting each of those chains as 1 stitch. So now we're going to move on to row 3. So for row 3, we're going to turn, and we're going to work a chainless starting double crochet and a double crochet into the same stitch that my loop is coming from. And now we're going to chain 1, skip 1, and then double crochet in the next stitch, and repeat that little sequence across until we have 1 stitch left before the corner chain space. So we're just going to keep chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next stitch until we have 1 stitch left before the corner chain space. So now we're going to chain 1, skip 1, and then work that same sequence in the corner. 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 double crochet all into that chain space at the corner. Then we're going to chain 1, skip 1, and then double crochet in the next stitch, and repeat that little sequence across till we have 2 stitches left in the row. So just chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next stitch, and we now have 2 stitches left in the row. So now we're going to chain 1, skip 1, and then work 2 double crochet in the last stitch of the row. So that is row 3. That's what it looks like at this point. And we're basically alternating rows that have these little gaps in them, or the chain spaces, to make some lacy kind of holes there, with some slightly more solid rows. So now we're going to work row 4. We're going to turn and work a chainless starting double crochet and a double crochet in the same stitch, and then I'm going to put 2 double crochet in the next stitch, like so, and then I'm going to work a little sequence that we're going to repeat, and that is to skip 1 stitch and then put 2 double crochet in the next stitch, skip 1 stitch, 2 double crochet in the next stitch, skip 1 stitch, put 2 double crochet in the next stitch, until we have 1 stitch left before the corner chain space. So here's our 1 stitch that's left before the corner. Now we're going to skip 1 stitch and then work that little sequence in the corner, 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 more double crochet all in that corner chain space. And then just like before, we're going to repeat the little stitch pattern sequence across, skip 1 stitch, 2 double crochet in the next stitch, and repeat that little sequence across to the last 3 stitches. So skip 1 stitch, 2 double crochet in the next stitch, skip 1 stitch, 2 double crochet in the next stitch, till we have 3 stitches left in the row. So we have 2 double crochets and a chain space left in the row. And now we're going to skip 1 stitch and work 2 double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So there's that one, and then in that very last stitch we're going to work another 2 double crochet, like so. So this is kind of what it looks like at this point, and we are going to be repeating rows 3 and 4 until the shawl is pretty much as close as you want to get to the finished size that you're looking for, or until you are getting close to running out of yarn. But I should mention that if you want to add the tassels that I'm going to be adding, then you're going to need to kind of pause your crocheting when you get close to close-ish to the end of your skein. And I'm going to stop when I have about 50 grams or 1.76 ounces left. And that is so that we can make the tassels from the other end of the skein. So right now I'm using the center pole end of the yarn, but there's also another end that is going around the outside of the skein. So when we get closer to the end of the shawl, or to the end of the yarn I should say, we're going to make the tassels from the opposite end that we're not using, and then continue crocheting after we've made the tassels until we are almost out of yarn. So we're just going to keep continuing to repeat rows 3 and 4 until we get to that point. Alright, so I have been repeating rows 3 to 4 for quite a while now, and my shawl is getting a lot bigger than when we started, and my yarn has already changed from this lighter turquoise to the dark blue to the hot pink down to this bubblegum pink. So even though I'm not done yet, and I haven't gotten quite to the end of my yarn yet, I wanted to show you how much yarn I have left right now. This is still a pretty decent amount of yarn, but it's not a whole lot left. So what we're going to do is start making our tassels from what's left of the yarn before we tie off our shawl and, finish it off. And the reason for this is because sometimes the gradient cake type of yarns, they'll start with one color at the top and very gradually just fade and blend into another color at the bottom. And so if you make the tassels first with the yarn from the center of the gradient cake, then the tassels will be the same color as the color that you start crocheting with. And there's nothing wrong with that, but in my personal opinion, I would like the tassels to always be the same color as the bottom edge stripe of the shawl. Now, in this particular case, my gradient cake yarn is not a smooth fade. It's just in, big giant stripes. And the yarn that we end with is going to be the same color as what we started with. But I'm going to show you this anyway, just to demonstrate why we're doing this. So if you don't want to add any tassels, then just go ahead and ignore what I just said and just keep going until you are almost out of yarn. But I've still got a little bit left of my bubblegum pink before it goes to this turquoise color. So what we're going to do is we're not going to tie off our shawl. We're not going to cut the yarn or anything, but we're going to find the opposite end of the yarn. And because it's a gradient cake and we pulled from the center when we started, then the other end of the skein will come from the outside. So I'm going to make sure that all this doesn't get twisted up. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make my tassels. I'm going to make 3 tassels, 1 for each corner. And I'm going to go ahead and make them from the outside end of the yarn. And then I will continue crocheting my shawl until I run out of whatever yarn is left after the tassels are made. So I have a whole separate video on how to make tassels if you don't know how to do that. So I'm not going to demonstrate that again here, but if you haven't made tassels before, then you can go and watch my video on how to make tassels. I will put the link to that video in the description box. So I'm going to go ahead and make my tassels, and then I'll show you whatever yarn is left after my tassels are finished. Alright, so I've made my tassels, and here is the yarn I have left. It's not a whole lot, but it is still some. So I'm going to go ahead and, now that my tassels are made and I know I have enough yarn for them, I'm going to go ahead and finish up my shawl by continuing to repeat rows 3 and 4 until I am pretty close to being totally out of yarn. Alright, so I have basically gone until I only have a little bit of yarn left, and it's really not that much. So I've only got a partial row in this last color, but I'm going to do one more row that is kind of an edging row. And when you finish, as far as when you stop repeating rows 3 and 4, it doesn't necessarily matter which one you end with. That's going to depend on your personal preference and how much yarn you have after you've made your tassels to finish the shawl. So I am going to go ahead and work row 5. I've finished with row 3. because I don't have enough yarn to work another row 4. So I'm going to finish my shawl with row 5, and this is just kind of a single crochet edging that we're going to do across our shawl. So to do this, I've already turned my work. I'm going to put 2 single crochet in the same stitch the loop is coming from, and I did not chain first. I suppose you could if you really wanted to, but I did not work a chain first. I just worked the single crochet directly into the same stitch. And then we're going to single crochet in every stitch across until we get to the corner chain space. And when I'm working into row 3 here, I am working into each chain space instead of into the chain stitch itself, just because it's easier to work into the chain space, and I just kind of prefer that look anyway. So I'm just going to single crochet all the way to the corner chain space. Alright, so I am just about up to the corner chain space, which is right here, and I'm going to work 3 single crochet into that corner chain space, like so, to make the corner. And then I'm just going to single crochet all the way across the next side, putting 1 single crochet in each stitch until I get to the very last stitch of the row. Alright, so I've got 1 stitch left, and I'm going to put 2 single crochet in that stitch. So now I am pretty much almost out of yarn. I only have a couple yards left, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cut the yarn and tie off, and then we're going to go ahead and weave in this end. So I'm going to go ahead and weave in this tail right under the turquoise single crochet row, because I like to always weave in a different color yarn tail within the color that the stitches match. So I wouldn't weave in this blue tail into the pink stripe or into any other color stripe. I will only weave it in to the matching color section. So now I can go ahead and trim that yarn tail, and we're going to attach our tassels now. And so we're going to put 1 on each corner. Here is the bottom corner, or the center back corner. So I'm going to grab one of my tassels here, and I'm going to use these longer yarn tails that secure our tassel together, that hold the tassel together, and I am going to use those to attach the tassel to basically to that center single crochet of the 3 single crochet that went into that corner chain space. Alright, so now that that is securely attached, I'm going to go ahead and tie the 2 yarn tails together in a double knot, just because that's my preferred way to secure things. And then I can weave the tails in, one going this direction and one going this direction, into that single crochet row of the edging that we did. Alright, so there's 1 tassel attached, and I'm going to do basically the same thing to attach the other 2 to each of the other corners, only I'll just weave both tails in the same direction of the edging. Alright, so now that all of our tassels are attached and our ends are woven in, now our shawl is basically finished. All you need to do is go ahead and block it. I'm going to steam block mine because this is acrylic, but if you are using a natural fiber, you might want to spray block your shawl instead, but I'm going to go ahead and steam block mine, and then my shawl will be finished. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you make this project, let me know how it turns out for you in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, making sure you click the little bell next to the subscribe button to be notified of new videos. Thanks for watching.